In Chapter 1, Dudley Demented, Harry spends another frustrating summer at the Dursleys' house, hiding in the flower bed to escape their constant criticism. He anxiously waits for some sign of the wizarding world, especially after hearing strange noises outside. His uncle Vernon accuses him of using magic, but Harry dismisses it. Harry's cousin Dudley, now a school boxing champion, continues to bully him, but Harry resists the temptation to fight back. He's haunted by dreams of Cedric and his own feelings of isolation. One night, Harry hears the familiar sound of apparition, but no one appears. Dudley's gang passes by, taunting Harry, but he decides not to provoke them. However, when Harry is alone with Dudley, a terrifying encounter with Dementors occurs. Using a Patronus charm, Harry successfully repels the Dementors and saves Dudley, though the experience leaves him shaken. Mrs. Figg arrives and scolds Harry for not being cautious. In Chapter 2, A Peck of Owls, Harry is shocked to learn that Mrs. Figg, his seemingly odd neighbor, is aware of Dementors and that she is a squib, not a witch. She explains that Mundungus Fletcher, the wizard responsible for watching Harry, left him unprotected, causing the Dementors to attack. As Harry drags Dudley back to Privet Drive, he realizes the gravity of the situation. Mrs. Figg confirms Dumbledore had been monitoring him, but she can't help against the Dementors. After they return home, the Ministry of Magic expels Harry for using magic outside Hogwarts, sending a stern warning to destroy his wand. However, a second owl delivers news that his wand will be kept until a hearing. Harry is left in a state of confusion and dread. As he faces the Dursleys' mounting hostility, a series of owls continues to arrive, and a howler from an unknown source leaves Aunt Petunia shaken, ultimately ensuring Harry's stay at Privet Drive. In Chapter 3, The Advance Guard, Harry is stuck in his bedroom, consumed with anger and frustration after the Dementor attack and the news of his expulsion from Hogwarts. He writes urgent letters to Sirius, Ron, and Hermione, hoping for answers. Hedwig finally returns, and Harry sends the letters off expecting quick replies. Over the next few days, Harry is left in isolation by the Dursleys, filled with anxiety about his hearing and the Ministry's actions. On the fourth night, Harry hears noises downstairs and discovers a group of wizards in his house led by Professor Lupin. They've come to take him away for safety. Among them are Mad-Eye Moody, Tonks, and others. They explain the plan to fly him out of Privet Drive using brooms to an undisclosed location. After a tense flight, they arrive in a rundown area where Moody uses a put-outer to conceal them from Muggles. Harry learns the location of the Order of the Phoenix headquarters at number 12 Grimmauld Place. In Chapter 4, Number 12 Grimmauld Place, Harry enters a hidden house between numbers 11 and 13, which materializes magically as number 12 Grimmauld Place. Inside, he is introduced to the grim and eerie atmosphere of the house, filled with old, dusty furnishings and unsettling portraits. Mrs. Weasley welcomes him, though she is thinner and paler than before. She quickly ushers him to a room where he reunites with Ron and Hermione. The trio discusses their frustration with being kept in the dark by Dumbledore, who insisted they keep Harry uninformed. Harry learns that the Order of the Phoenix, a secret group fighting Voldemort, is using the house as their headquarters. While Harry is eager to know more, he is kept in the dark about many details. The chapter ends with Harry meeting Sirius Black, who reveals that the house once belonged to his mother, whose portrait screams at them in fury. In Chapter 5, The Order of the Phoenix, Harry learns more about the secretive order and its role in fighting Voldemort. Sirius explains that the house, once his parents' home, is now the Order's headquarters. The meeting is tense, with many wizards present, including Mr. and Mrs. Weasley, Bill, and Mundungus. While Mrs. Weasley prepares dinner, Harry is introduced to the challenges the Order faces, such as the Ministry's refusal to acknowledge Voldemort's return. Harry questions why the Ministry is so adamant about denying the truth, but the conversation takes a darker turn when Sirius hints at a new weapon Voldemort seeks, something worse than the Avada Kedavra curse. Tensions rise when Mrs. Weasley scolds the group, forbidding further discussions, and insists Harry is too young to join the Order. Despite his desire to fight, Harry is firmly told he's not ready, leaving him frustrated and feeling excluded from the crucial battle ahead. In Chapter 6, The Noble and Most Ancient House of Black, Harry and his friends continue the difficult task of cleaning Grimmauld Place, dealing with creatures and items left behind by Sirius's family. Mrs. Weasley oversees the work, including a battle with Doxies, while Fred and George secretly experiment with Doxy venom for their skiving snack boxes. Meanwhile, Harry learns more about Sirius's troubled family history, including his estranged relationship with his parents and his connection to the Malfoys. Kreacher, the house elf, becomes increasingly antagonistic, muttering curses under his breath and trying to smuggle items from the house. Tensions rise when Harry hears that Dumbledore has advised Sirius not to accompany him to the Ministry hearing. Mrs. Weasley insists on Harry dressing well for the event, further deepening his anxiety about the upcoming hearing. Though Harry tries to stay focused on the present, his fear of the hearing remains at the forefront of his mind. In Chapter 7, The Ministry of Magic, Harry wakes up early, anxious about his upcoming disciplinary hearing. Mrs. Weasley fusses over him while Tonks and Mr. Weasley discuss work-related matters. After breakfast, Harry and Mr. Weasley leave for the Ministry, traveling through Muggle London via the Underground and a magical telephone box. Harry is surprised by the Ministry's hidden entrance and its grand, busy halls, which are filled with witches and wizards. They pass through multiple floors, and Mr. Weasley explains the different departments. In the Ministry, they encounter familiar faces, including Kingsley Shacklebolt and Bode, who briefly eye Harry. Finally, they rush to the hearing, where Mr. Weasley leaves Harry at the door, wishing him luck. Harry, now alone, enters the dark and imposing courtroom, his heart racing with dread as he prepares for what's to come. In Chapter 8, The Hearing, Harry is summoned to the Ministry for a disciplinary hearing, where he enters a dark courtroom reminiscent of a previous memory. He is confronted by the Wizengamot, including Minister Fudge and his own witness, Percy Weasley. The charges are read aloud. Harry used magic, a Patronus, in the presence of Muggles. When Harry tries to explain, Fudge dismisses his claims of Dementor attacks as a cover-up. However, Dumbledore arrives as Harry's defense and brings forward Mrs. Figg as a witness. Mrs. Figg recounts seeing the Dementors and confirms Harry's story, although Fudge dismisses her testimony. Dumbledore skillfully counters Fudge's arguments, asserting that the law allows magic in life-threatening situations. After heated exchanges, Fudge is forced to concede, and Harry is cleared of all charges. Dumbledore leaves the courtroom briskly without acknowledging Harry, leaving him with a mix of relief and confusion. In Chapter 9, The Woes of Mrs. Weasley, Harry feels a mix of relief and shock after his hearing and is greeted by Mr. Weasley, who joyfully informs him of his acquittal. As they leave, they run into Lucius Malfoy, who mocks Harry's survival and shares a conversation with Fudge. Mr. Weasley becomes agitated, suspecting Malfoy's ulterior motives with the minister. Back at Grimmauld Place, celebrations ensue as Ron is named prefect, a surprise to everyone. Mrs. Weasley is overwhelmed with joy despite Fred and George's teasing. However, Harry struggles with feelings of inadequacy, especially in comparison to Ron. Later, Mrs. Weasley's emotional breakdown occurs after facing a boggart, which shows the deaths of her family members. The tension reflects her fears of losing her loved ones in the ongoing conflict. Sirius, Lupin, and Harry try to comfort her, while Harry contemplates the harsh reality of the war. His scar burns again, signaling the looming danger. In Chapter 10, Luna Lovegood, Harry experiences a restless night filled with unsettling dreams, including one about his parents. The next morning, the Weasley household is chaotic as Fred and George's enchanted trunks cause a mishap, resulting in Ginny being knocked down the stairs. Mrs. Weasley is frantic, and Mad-Eye Moody insists on a guard accompanying them to King's Cross. Sirius, disguised as a dog, follows them, but Mrs. Weasley is irritated by his presence. At the station, they narrowly catch the train, and Harry notices strange creatures pulling the carriages. These winged, skeletal horses are invisible to Ron, but visible to Luna, who assures Harry he's not going mad. Once aboard the Hogwarts Express, Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Ginny settle into a compartment with Luna. During the journey, Harry reads an article about Sirius Black in the Quibbler, which makes outrageous claims about his past. Harry grows concerned about the implications of the article and his own safety. In Chapter 11, Harry and Luna experience a shared hallucination of these skeletal creatures pulling the carriages, but Harry keeps it to himself. The students discuss Hagrid's absence as they arrive at Hogwarts, noticing that a new teacher, Professor Umbridge, is present in his place. The Sorting Hat's song is unusually serious, warning of danger for the school, which causes murmurs among the students. As the first years are sorted, Harry feels the weight of their whispers. During the feast, Professor Umbridge delivers a speech filled with vague threats, alluding to the Ministry's involvement in Hogwarts. Meanwhile, Harry's classmates show mixed reactions, with some believing the Ministry's lies about him. Later, Harry has a confrontation with Seamus, whose mother believes the Daily Prophet's claims about Harry. Despite this, Neville expresses his unwavering support. Harry contemplates the toll of being doubted and the ongoing struggle against those who question his truth. In Chapter 12, Harry faces growing tension with his classmates, particularly Seamus, who now believes Harry is lying about Voldemort's return. At breakfast, Hermione expresses frustration over Fred and George's antics, while Harry struggles with his emotions, snapping at both Ron and Hermione. Later, during his first defense against the dark arts lesson with Professor Umbridge, the class quickly realizes her teaching style is theory-heavy and devoid of practical magic, which sparks a heated confrontation. Harry is punished with detention for openly calling her a liar. Afterward, he meets with Professor McGonagall, who warns him about the consequences of defying Umbridge, advising him to keep his temper under control. Despite the tension, McGonagall reassures Harry that he must tread carefully with Umbridge, whose influence in the school is linked to the Ministry. Harry, still upset, leaves her office with a growing sense of unease about the school's new regime. In Chapter 13, Harry's detention with Umbridge continues to worsen, with the "I must not tell lies" sentence physically cutting into his hand as he writes. Meanwhile, Harry deals with the growing tension surrounding his story about Cedric's death, with many students doubting him. He also struggles with mounting homework and pressure from his Quidditch obligations, especially after missing the keeper tryouts due to detention. Hermione is furious with Fred and George for giving sweets to first years, leading to a confrontation that ends with her threatening to write to their mother. Despite the chaos, Ron decides to try out for Gryffindor keeper and is successful. Harry, still dealing with Umbridge's cruelty, experiences more pain and frustration, especially when his scar hurts during detention. Harry keeps this incident to himself, unwilling to involve Dumbledore, and ends the day feeling increasingly isolated from those around him. In Chapter 14, Harry spends a quiet Saturday morning writing a letter to Sirius, trying to be discreet about the events at Hogwarts. After sending the letter via Hedwig, Harry encounters Cho Chang at the Owlery, and they share a brief conversation. Cho shows support for Harry's confrontation with Umbridge, making him feel better about his actions. Later, during Quidditch practice, Ron struggles with his performance and the Slytherins mock him, but Harry and Ron stay focused. Their practice is interrupted when Katie Bell is injured during the session. In the Gryffindor common room, Ron receives a letter from Percy advising him to sever ties with Harry and suggesting he align with the Ministry. The letter deeply hurts Ron, who burns it in anger. That night, Harry sees Sirius's head in the fire. They discuss Umbridge's influence, Hagrid's disappearance, and the danger Sirius faces from the Ministry, with Harry concerned for his godfather's safety. In Chapter 15, the Ministry appoints Dolores Umbridge as Hogwarts' first ever High Inquisitor, granting her the power to inspect and evaluate teachers. This move is part of a broader push by Minister Fudge to control the school. Harry, Hermione, and Ron are frustrated with the Ministry's interference, especially as Umbridge starts inspecting lessons. During divination, Umbridge questions Professor Trelawney, undermining her teaching, and later disrupts Transfiguration class, where Professor McGonagall stands her ground. Umbridge continues her inspections in Care of Magical Creatures, where she questions the substitute teacher, Professor Grubblyplank, and gathers information about Hagrid's absence. Later, in the Gryffindor common room, Hermione suggests Harry teach them defense against the dark arts, acknowledging his past victories against Voldemort despite Harry's doubts about his abilities. An emotional confrontation ensues, with Harry reluctantly agreeing to consider teaching them. His scar hurts again, signaling dark times ahead. In Chapter 16, Hermione once again suggests Harry teach defense against the dark arts, a proposal he's been thinking about for weeks. Despite his doubts, Harry agrees, and Hermione plans a secret meeting in Hogsmeade for those interested. On the weekend trip, the trio is joined by a large group of students, including Neville, Cho, and others, all eager to learn from Harry. The meeting is held at the Hog's Head Pub, an unsavory location where students gather to discuss proper defense training. Hermione nervously explains the situation, and Harry is bombarded with questions about his past encounters with dark magic. Tensions arise when some students question the validity of Voldemort's return, particularly Zacharias Smith. However, the group decides to continue, agreeing to meet regularly for lessons despite Umbridge's likely disapproval. The chapter ends with a humorous moment regarding Ginny and Michael Corner's relationship, leaving Harry reflecting on Cho's attention. In Chapter 17, Harry, Ron, and Hermione are busy with homework, feeling positive about their secret defense against the dark arts group. However, their mood shifts when they discover a new notice from Umbridge banning all student organizations, including their group. Suspicion grows about who might have informed Umbridge, with Harry wondering if someone at the Hogshead meeting betrayed them. Meanwhile, Harry receives a letter from Sirius, revealing that Mundungus was spying on them during the meeting. Despite Sirius's approval of their secret group, he warns them about the risks of being watched. During potions class, Umbridge observes Snape's teaching, further heightening the tension. Afterward, Sirius communicates through the fire, suggesting the Shrieking Shack as a potential meeting spot. However, their conversation is abruptly interrupted when Umbridge's hand appears in the flames, searching for Sirius, signaling a major escalation in her surveillance. In Chapter 18, Harry, Ron, and Hermione discuss their concerns about Umbridge spying on Harry's mail and nearly catching Sirius. During Charms class, they practice silencing charms while reflecting on how close they came to exposing Sirius. Later, Angelina informs the trio that Umbridge reluctantly allowed the Gryffindor Quidditch team to reform. As Harry and Ron prepare for their first Defense Against the Dark Arts meeting, they consider the risks of organizing such a group under Umbridge's scrutiny. Dobby helps them find the Room of Requirement, a hidden space for their lessons, which they begin using that evening. The group of 28 students gathers to practice spells like Expelliarmus, and Harry becomes the leader of the group, despite some reluctance from members like Zacharias Smith. As the meeting progresses, Harry starts to feel the pressure of leading and realizes the importance of keeping their activities secret, especially from Umbridge. In Chapter 19, Harry and the DA continue their secret resistance against Umbridge, finding a clever way to communicate meeting times using enchanted galleons. As the Gryffindor-Slytherin Quidditch match nears, tensions rise, especially with Ron struggling under Slytherin's verbal abuse. During the match, Slytherins taunt Ron with an insulting song, causing him to lose confidence. Despite his struggles, Harry manages to catch the snitch, winning the game for Gryffindor. However, Umbridge later bans Harry, Fred, and George from Quidditch for their confrontation with Malfoy, ignoring Slytherin's misdeeds. The team feels demoralized, and Ron contemplates quitting, but Harry refuses to let him take the blame. After a heated conversation, Hermione shares the good news that Hagrid has returned, offering a ray of hope for the group. In Chapter 20, Harry, Ron, and Hermione sneak out to visit Hagrid, whose injuries reveal he's been in a dangerous encounter. Despite his attempts to downplay the situation, Hagrid eventually admits he was attacked by giants during a mission to persuade them to ally with Dumbledore. After spending days traveling and making gifts for the giants, Hagrid and Madame Maxime encountered danger when Golgomath, the new giant leader, became violent, aided by Death Eaters like McNair. Hagrid shares his relief that some giants might remember Dumbledore's kindness, but there's little hope for a giant alliance. The conversation turns to Umbridge's presence at Hogwarts as she performs an inspection of teachers. Hagrid insists he's planned exciting lessons, but Hermione urges him to teach less dangerous creatures to pass Umbridge's inspection. After leaving Hagrid's cabin, Hermione resolves to help plan safer lessons for him to protect his job. In Chapter 21, Hermione goes to Hagrid's cabin to help plan lessons, but Hagrid is absent later, emerging from the Forbidden Forest with injuries and a half-dead cow. He introduces Thestrals to the class, explaining that only those who have witnessed death can see them. The students are nervous, especially Malfoy, who is visibly uncomfortable. During the lesson, Umbridge arrives for her inspection, criticizing Hagrid's teaching methods and taking notes on his alleged incompetence. Despite Umbridge's interference, Hagrid continues to teach, proudly presenting the Thestrals. Back at Hogwarts, Harry feels increasingly isolated, especially after a confusing and emotionally charged interaction with Cho. He later has a disturbing dream about Ron's father being attacked by a snake. Waking up in pain, Harry urgently tells Ron and McGonagall about the attack, convinced it was real. McGonagall rushes to inform Dumbledore, believing Harry's vision. In Chapter 22, Harry, Ron, and Professor McGonagall rush to Dumbledore's office after Harry's vision of Mr. Weasley being attacked by a snake. Harry describes the vision, revealing he saw the attack from the snake's point of view. Dumbledore confirms the seriousness of the situation and instructs magical portraits to alert the necessary people. The Weasley family is informed, and Harry accompanies them via portkey to Grimmauld Place. Mrs. Weasley is relieved to hear Mr. Weasley is stable, though still injured. At St. Mungo's, Mr. Weasley explains that his snake bite involved a poison that keeps the wound open. Fred and George secretly use extendable ears to eavesdrop on a conversation between Tonks and Mad-Eye, overhearing concerns about Harry's connection to Voldemort's snake. They worry that Harry might be unknowingly possessed by Voldemort. Harry is shaken by their words, unsure of the implications of his visions. In Chapter 23, Harry grapples with the overwhelming thought that Voldemort might be possessing him, especially after his vision of attacking Mr. Weasley. He begins to consider isolating himself to protect others, but Phineas Nigellus interrupts, delivering a cryptic message from Dumbledore to "Stay where you are." Harry's frustration with being kept in the dark intensifies. He seeks solace in solitude, avoiding his friends and feeling increasingly unclean. However, Hermione visits, revealing she's spending Christmas at Grimmauld Place instead of skiing, and they discuss Harry's fears of possession. Ginny reassures Harry, explaining that possession involves memory gaps, which he doesn't have. Over Christmas, the house is filled with festive cheer, though Harry struggles with his inner turmoil. Later, they visit Mr. Weasley at St. Mungo's, where Harry has an uncomfortable encounter with Neville's grandmother, who reveals the painful truth about Neville's parents. The group is deeply moved, and Harry reflects on the horrors of Voldemort's cruelty. In Chapter 24, Harry begins his occlumency lessons with Snape, who explains that the magic defends the mind against external influences, particularly legilomancy, Voldemort's ability to read minds. Harry's connection with Voldemort has made him vulnerable, and Dumbledore wants him to learn how to protect himself. Snape demonstrates how legilomancy works by invading Harry's thoughts, showing flashes of memories and emotions. Despite Harry's efforts, Snape repeatedly breaks into his mind, causing Harry physical pain. During their session, Harry recalls a mysterious corridor from his dreams, which he identifies as leading to the Department of Mysteries. Snape dismisses the inquiry, but warns that Voldemort might be able to access Harry's thoughts. Afterward, Harry struggles with his feelings, especially when he experiences a painful vision of Voldemort feeling triumphant. Ron and Hermione are concerned, but Harry's sense of dread intensifies as he contemplates what Voldemort's happiness could mean. In Chapter 25, Harry, Ron, and Hermione react to the news of a mass breakout from Azkaban, including the escape of dangerous Death Eaters like Bellatrix Lestrange. The Ministry of Magic, led by Cornelius Fudge, blames Sirius Black for aiding the breakout, but Harry is outraged. The article also covers the mysterious death of Ministry worker Broderick Bode, a former unspeakable in the Department of Mysteries, further connecting the Ministry's troubles with Voldemort's rising power. Meanwhile, Harry faces tension with Cho Chang, who becomes upset when Harry is unable to discuss Cedric's death. Their Valentine's Day outing ends awkwardly, with Cho leaving in tears. Later, Harry meets Hermione, Luna, and the former journalist Rita Skeeter at the Three Broomsticks. Hermione arranges for Harry to share his side of the story with Rita, knowing the Daily Prophet will never publish the truth. Despite Rita's reluctance, she agrees to write the story for the Quibbler, with Luna's father as the publisher. In Chapter 26, Harry's interview in the Quibbler about Voldemort's return spreads across the school, sparking mixed reactions. While some students support him, others dismiss his claims. Professor Umbridge, enraged by the article, bans the Quibbler and orders the expulsion of any student caught with it. Despite this, Harry's words reach more people, and his popularity grows as many students begin to believe him. Meanwhile, Professor Trelawney is abruptly sacked by Umbridge for her poor performance, but is unexpectedly saved by Dumbledore. He asserts his authority, ensuring she stays at Hogwarts. Umbridge, furious, tries to counter Dumbledore's decisions, but is met with a surprising turn. Dumbledore introduces Firenze, a centaur, as the new divination teacher. This marks a dramatic moment in the ongoing power struggle between Dumbledore and Umbridge, with Harry and the others witnessing the shift in authority. In Chapter 27, Harry and his classmates experience their first lesson with Firenze, the centaur, after Professor Trelawney's dismissal. Firenze explains the centaur philosophy of astrology, dismissing human fortune-telling as trivial, while offering a more cosmic view of the future. He reveals his banishment from the Forbidden Forest for working with Dumbledore. Meanwhile, Harry struggles with the mounting pressure from Umbridge, who is determined to eliminate the DA. After receiving a warning from Dobby about Umbridge's impending raid, the DA members flee the Room of Requirement. Harry is caught by Malfoy, who uses a trip jinx to bring him down just as Umbridge arrives, thrilled at her success. At Dumbledore's office, Umbridge presents a list of DA members, including Harry, and accuses him of organizing the meetings. However, Dumbledore cleverly defends Harry, revealing that the DA was legal at the time of its formation, but it's now in violation of Umbridge's decrees. In the tense confrontation, Dumbledore escapes with the help of Fawkes, leaving Fudge and Umbridge reeling. In Chapter 28, Umbridge has officially replaced Dumbledore as headmistress, and her inquisitorial squad, including Draco Malfoy, begins to enforce her authority. Malfoy docks points from Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Ernie under Umbridge's new regime. Meanwhile, Fred and George Weasley plan a disruptive prank to make Umbridge's first day in charge chaotic. They launch enchanted fireworks across the school, creating pandemonium and forcing Umbridge to spend her afternoon trying to control the chaos. Harry is summoned to Umbridge's office, where she tries to extract information about Dumbledore and Sirius Black. Harry refuses to cooperate, but she warns him that the Ministry is monitoring everything. Later, Harry has an intense occlumency lesson with Snape, where he accidentally experiences a memory of Snape's teenage years. In the memory, Harry sees his father, James, bullying Snape. Snape catches Harry watching and violently throws him out, warning him not to tell anyone what he saw. In Chapter 29, Harry struggles with the aftermath of seeing his father's behavior in Snape's memory and decides to speak to Sirius. Meanwhile, the Easter holidays pass with Harry, Ron, and Hermione revising for their upcoming exams. During a careers meeting with Professor McGonagall, Harry discusses becoming an Auror, despite Umbridge's interruptions. She tries to undermine his chances, but McGonagall defends Harry fiercely. Later, Harry prepares to speak with Sirius by using Umbridge's unmonitored fire, with Fred and George planning a diversion. As the diversion causes chaos in the school, Fred and George take their chance to leave Hogwarts in dramatic fashion, causing a swamp to fill a corridor and escaping on their brooms. They announce the opening of their joke shop, Weasley's Wizard Wheezes, and leave the school amidst cheers, marking their departure and sending a defiant message to Umbridge. In Chapter 30, Harry and Hermione accompany Hagrid into the Forbidden Forest to meet his half-brother Grop, a giant he rescued from abuse by other giants. Hagrid explains that Grop is not violent by nature but is misunderstood, and Hagrid hopes Harry, Ron, and Hermione will help him teach Grop to be more civilized. The trio is initially shocked by Grop's size and behavior, but Hagrid insists that the giant means no harm. Despite Grop's massive strength and rough behavior, Hagrid is determined to care for him even if it risks his own position at Hogwarts. The centaurs in the forest, led by Megorian, confront Hagrid for his role in aiding Firenze, a centaur who has aligned with Dumbledore. After a tense exchange, Hagrid and the students leave the forest. Later, Ron's triumphant victory in the Quidditch match brings some relief, but the group is left unsettled by the events surrounding Grop. In Chapter 31, the fifth years are consumed by owl exam preparation, with Ron celebrating Gryffindor's Quidditch win while Harry and Hermione struggle to focus on their studies. Harry and Hermione eventually break the news to Ron about Hagrid's giant half-brother Grop, who is hidden in the forest and whom Hagrid wants them to teach English. Despite their disbelief, they reluctantly agree. Tension rises as the exams approach, with students like Ernie Macmillan obsessively comparing revision hours, while Malfoy flaunts connections to the Wizarding Examinations Authority. Meanwhile, Hermione confiscates brain-enhancing substances like Barufio's brain elixir from the black market, and the OWLs officially begin. Harry faces an awkward practical exam with Professor Tofty and earns praise for his Patronus, though he struggles with some questions. Later, during astronomy, Harry sees figures near Hagrid's cabin and hears a commotion, which turns into a violent confrontation. Hagrid flees with Fang after a fight, leaving students uneasy about his future at Hogwarts. In Chapter 32, Harry is in a state of panic after his nightmare about Sirius being tortured by Voldemort. He rushes to the hospital wing but finds that Professor McGonagall has been transferred to St. Mungo's after being attacked. Desperate to save Sirius, Harry confides in Ron and Hermione, telling them about the vision he had of the Department of Mysteries. Hermione urges caution, wanting to confirm Sirius's location before rushing off, but Harry insists they go immediately. The group devises a plan to use Umbridge's fire to contact Sirius. With Ron, Ginny, and Luna distracting others, Harry and Hermione sneak into Umbridge's office. Harry tries to use the Flu Network but is interrupted by Kreacher, who hints that Sirius is at the Department of Mysteries. Before Harry can learn more, Umbridge catches them. After a confrontation, Hermione lies to Umbridge, claiming they have developed a weapon for Dumbledore. Umbridge demands they show her the weapon. In Chapter 33, Harry and Hermione, with Umbridge in tow, lead the way into the Forbidden Forest to find the so-called weapon. As they venture deeper into the trees, Hermione's plan begins to unfold. They intentionally attract the Centaurs' attention. The Centaurs, including Megorian and Bane, confront the group, enraged by Umbridge's insults. Umbridge attempts to defend herself, but is swiftly overpowered and carried away by the Centaurs, leaving Harry and Hermione to escape. In the chaos, Harry's scar throbs with pain, signaling Voldemort's presence. As the Centaurs disperse, Grawp, Hagrid's giant brother, emerges from the trees, causing further mayhem. The Centaurs attack Grawp, but he roars in frustration, and Harry and Hermione run for cover. Later, Ron, Ginny, Neville, and Luna arrive, ready to help. Harry's frustration boils over, but they eventually settle on using Thestrals to fly to the Department of Mysteries to rescue Sirius. In Chapter 34, Harry and his friends use Thestrals to fly to the Ministry of Magic, determined to rescue Sirius. They land in a deserted area of the Ministry and make their way through the atrium, where they encounter no security. They then descend to the Department of Mysteries, where Harry leads them to the room he saw in his dreams. After passing through several rooms filled with strange objects like floating brains, they finally reach row 97, where Harry believes Sirius is held. However, they find no sign of him. Instead, Harry discovers a glass orb with his name on it, labeled SPT to APWBD Dark Lord and Harry Potter. Just as Harry picks up the orb, a voice demands he hand it over. Tension escalates as they realize they are not alone in the Department of Mysteries. In Chapter 35, Harry and his friends are trapped by Death Eaters in the Department of Mysteries. Lucius Malfoy demands Harry hand over the prophecy, but Harry refuses, leading to a tense standoff. As the situation escalates, Bellatrix Lestrange threatens to harm Ginny, prompting Harry to hold the prophecy high, refusing to give it up. The group is cornered, but they manage to fight back, using spells to break through shelves and fend off attackers. During the chaos, Harry's friends help, but Neville's attempt to help leads to disaster when the prophecy is accidentally shattered. As the Death Eaters close in, Dumbledore arrives, engaging in battle with the Death Eaters. Amid the chaos, Sirius is struck by a curse from Bellatrix and falls through the veil, disappearing forever. Harry desperately tries to save him, but Lupin holds him back, telling him it's too late. The chapter ends with Harry devastated by Sirius's death. In Chapter 36, Harry refuses to accept Sirius's death and struggles with Lupin, believing Sirius is hiding behind the archway. Dumbledore confronts the Death Eaters, immobilizing most of them, while Harry, overwhelmed with grief, charges after Bellatrix Lestrange. He is caught in the chaos, and despite his efforts to stop her, the prophecy is smashed. Bellatrix's attempts to force Harry to give up the prophecy fail, and Voldemort appears, enraged by the destruction. A fierce battle ensues between Dumbledore and Voldemort, culminating in Dumbledore forcing Voldemort to retreat. Harry is left devastated by Sirius's death, but is pulled back to reality by Dumbledore. Fudge arrives, but Dumbledore takes charge, ordering the removal of Umbridge from Hogwarts and instructing the Aurors. Dumbledore uses a portkey to send Harry back to Hogwarts, leaving Fudge stunned and speechless, while Harry prepares for the journey back. In Chapter 37, Harry arrives in Dumbledore's office, consumed by guilt over Sirius's death. As he grapples with his emotions, Dumbledore arrives and begins explaining the circumstances leading to the tragedy. Dumbledore reveals that Sirius's death was partly his fault, as he had kept Harry in the dark to protect him, fearing that Voldemort might manipulate Harry's mind. Dumbledore confesses that he should have shared more information with Harry, including details about the prophecy. Harry learns that Voldemort's attack on him as a baby was based on a prophecy made by Sybil Trelawney, which could have applied to either Harry or Neville. However, Voldemort chose Harry, marking him as his equal by giving him the scar. Dumbledore emphasizes that Harry's greatest strength is his ability to love, a power Voldemort lacks. The chapter ends with Harry learning that his final confrontation with Voldemort is inevitable, as neither can live while the other survives. In Chapter 38, the Wizarding World begins to grapple with the return of Voldemort, as Minister Fudge confirms the Dark Lord's reemergence and the revolt of the Dementors. The news spreads through the wizarding community, with Harry now regarded as a hero for speaking out about Voldemort's return. In the hospital wing, Harry, Ron, Hermione, Ginny, Neville, and Luna reflect on the recent events, including Sirius's death and the prophecy. Harry later visits Hagrid, who has returned to Hogwarts after being in hiding. Hagrid, though grieving, reassures Harry that Sirius died fighting. Harry is struggling with his grief, isolating himself and avoiding others until a conversation with Luna offers a small moment of solace. On the Hogwarts Express, Harry's encounter with Malfoy leads to an amusing yet tense moment with his friends. Finally, Harry is met at King's Cross by a group from the Order who ensure Harry's safety and confront the Dursleys, signaling the beginning of the next phase in the war against Voldemort.